Chapter 11. Big Sister. Sky, Dylan, Wade, and Jesse sat around the coffee table, studying a Jenga tower. Sky and Dylan sat side by side on the floor, Jesse and Wade on the couch. Sky inched her way closer to the wood stove. Jesse didn't blame her. It was a cold night, and he wouldn't have minded changing places. Dylan sent her a glance, then got up and threw a couple more pieces of wood on the fire. Jesse smiled as the wood caught fire. The room would heat up soon enough. Dylan sat back down and studied the tower as he studied prey. It would take him a while to decide which piece to pull out of there. He never made a move until he was good and ready. Jesse leaned forward. If he planned on winning, he better do the same. Soon, the snap of the fire and their breathing were the only sounds that could be heard. In the midst of the silence, a sharp knock at the door seemed that much louder, startling them all. Dylan and Wade moved for their weapons, and Jesse put a hand to his own knife until the night watchman called out his name. Dylan opened the door, spoke to him, and nodded. Turning to the rest of them, he said, "We're needed." Jesse pulled on his jacket and shoes. What was going on? He sent Dylan a raised eyebrow. "Judge is here," Dylan said. "He's asking for you." "Me?" The word squeaked out of Jesse. "I ain't done anything. He didn't say that you did," Dylan replied. Jesse stepped out into the darkness behind Dylan and shivered. Even with Sky beside him and Wade trailing behind, he found it daunting. The moon's light was thin today, making it harder to see than it should be. He squinted as he scanned the yard for any infected or sick. It was unlikely any would have made it through the watch, but it was always one of his fears. Jesse's fast, light breaths frosted in the air in front of him as he pushed his hands deep into his coat pockets. He flashed back to a day in town when the infected had come to call. He'd barely made it out of there, but Mom had done it. Kelsey had been white as a sheet, so he'd made fun of the sick so she wouldn't be so scared. But his own heart had thumped in his chest like a jackhammer he'd once seen some construction guys use on a sidewalk. He hadn't known a heart could do that, and the person still lived. Just thinking of that day got his heart going again. Jesse took a few deep breaths to calm himself like his mom had shown him. He cleared his throat a couple of times as he crunched his way across half-frozen grass. The sound of it against the quiet night startled him. Sky glanced at him. "You okay?" "Yeah, fine." He tried his best not to look rattled. "Come here," she said, waving him up between her and Dylan. Jesse took a couple of quick jumps to catch up with them, and when he did, she laid her arm across his back. Her other hand laid on the knife at her belt. He looked up at Dylan, who carried his rifle, his gaze alert and searching, as always, for any signs of trouble. Gun in hand, Wade came up on the other side of Sky, scanning in front, then behind the group. Jesse put his hand on the hilt of his own knife as he trailed his gaze across the four of them and scoffed at himself. How many times had there been trouble? And how many times had they taken care of it? What was he worried about? It was like he lived with a group of apocalypse superheroes. After a few minutes, they reached a large cabin snuggled against a rock face with a few tall pines growing around it. The house had been empty until recently, when the group decided to use it for the trial. A room in the back had been cleaned up for the judge to use as a bedroom. They climbed the few stairs and stomped their shoes on the weathered wood porch to kick off any dirt before going in. The screen door creaked as it passed from one of them to the other. Stepping into the massive front room, Jesse saw the central area of the cabin had been cleared of any furniture. Only 2 chairs and a desk were left. He assumed that would be the front of the court. An older man sat at the desk, his mostly gray head bent over some papers. A lantern made a circle of light around him just large enough to read by. When the judge looked up, his gaze swept the group and landed on Jesse, locking eyes with him. Even from where he stood, the boy could tell he was the right man for the job. The older man's sharp blue eyes seemed to pierce the younger's soul. "I'm going to assume you're Jesse Bailey," the judge said, his southern accent low and cultured. Jesse looked up at Sky, who nodded at him. Dylan put a hand on his shoulder. Jesse straightened and said, I am, sir. Very good. Well, then, I have something for you. As he spoke, he waved someone out of the back. Come on out now, the judge said softly. A young teenaged girl nervously stepped out. Jess's eyebrows knitted together. Could it be? It had been years since he'd seen her. Then somehow, he just knew, was absolutely certain. Had it been the way her round blue eyes flickered just a little bit when she peeked around the corner? Those eyes so like their mama's? Or maybe it was the tumble of messy, blonde curls that no one was likely to forget. But something told Jesse exactly who she was. His breath caught as he thought her name before he said it. Sue Ellen.
Thanks for listening. Liking and commenting on my videos and subscribing to my channel helps my videos to be recommended to more people. So, if you would like me to continue uploading and keep this channel open, please interact with this video and subscribe. Thank you.